You mentioned that the younger generation is super important. I think both of us are trying to get to that generation. So my first question to you, I guess, is how do you find your messaging is landing on younger ears, or is your audience still older?
About getting that next generation. So it's funny, most of my followers are my generation, Gen X or baby boomers. And because traditionally gold and silver was money to the baby boomers, and Gen X I think is just old enough to understand the impact of that. The younger generations are getting into it. Like there was a report on Yahoo a few months ago that the millennials were buying more gold than any other generation. They're buying ETF form. They're buying GLD. And GLD obviously doesn't give you physical exposure unless you're an authorized participant. One of the big banks or traders, you can't get it. That's why the prospectus is written. But they thought, oh, I need to get into gold, and they're on their phones. This is the phone generation, like, oh, digital gold. But I think they've started to realize both in gold and silver, it doesn't give them real protection. It just gives them price exposure. But that market is never going to give you the real exposure of physical metal. And so what happened in 2008 was I got into gold, my generation. The Great Recession was our wake-up call. And my generation started getting into gold and silver. And it's funny, if you look at YouTube, all the bloggers, Twitter personalities, TikTokers, YouTubers, all came from that, the current ones that are popular, all came from that Great Recession, and it's mostly my generation. However, now that 15 years later we're getting into the next big mess, millennials can't find jobs in their field, 50% of them are underemployed or unemployed, they have a fraction of the wealth that the other generations have. In fact, per capita, the millennials are the absolute poorest generation to exist in the last 100 years. I want to say that again, per capita, per person. The millennials are the poorest generation in 100 years when we have the most capability economically we've had since humans have been on this rock we call Earth that circumnavigates the sun. They have no wealth, they've been screwed. And I think they're waking up and they're starting to say, I'm fed up with this. And I have more millennials getting involved in gold and silver and coming to coin shows and getting into gold or Bitcoin or something outside the system. They're looking for any alternative outside the system.
Welcome to Gold Silver Pros.